Hello, this is World University and Schools live Hangout on Air on August 20th, 2018. And as we wait for people to join us for your questions, ideas, thoughts about World University and School, I wanted to share a little bit about what's happened in the past month and World University and Schools seeking our second undergraduate class beginning in January of 2019. Now, we're postponing this from this autumn to January of 2019. So if you know of students from around the world in English, who speak English, who are interested in an online MIT OpenCourseWare centric undergraduate degree as we continue with the accreditation process. Julian.
Hello.
Please let us know. Info at World University and School. Greetings, Julian. Nice to see you. How are you doing?
Well, not good.
Okay. What is happening in Romania and vis-a-vis World University and School as well, potentially?
Well, I don't know what to say. I'm as a human in a difficult, actually, I would say in an emergency. So.
One of I'm not sure in what ways World University and School, for example, could help with this or teach with this, or with the WUaS Corp as well. One of the things that occurred to me recently with regard to you as the named CEO of World University and School Press Corporation is to focus our next undergraduate sort of course this autumn with one student, Tanya, who has a business major, as potentially to come into conversation with you with MIT OpenCourseWare as well, and maybe be of help to you.
Okay.
But World University and School also doesn't have any resources yet vis-a-vis the potential for growing, for example. What kind of emergency are you in, and what do you think of potentially having a student who could help focus WUaS Co?
So I want to leave the flat in which I'm living and go back home.
Yeah.
In order to do that, and I really have to do that. I don't see an alternative. I have to agree with somebody on an exchange, and my benefit would be that I would cover the current expenses for my next 3 months, and they're really low. I mean, I can limit them maybe to, I don't know, maybe the entire amount, let's say I can limit it to some $800. And my part would be, and their benefit, yeah, they'll choose their benefits for giving some support, you know. And yeah, about Tanya, so she would like to become a student with university.
She has been our first student in our first undergraduate class for a number of semesters now.
Oh.
And this is prior to a kind of accreditation process with BPP, with Bureau of Private Post-Secondary Education, State of California, and with WUaS Senior, Western Association of Schools and Colleges.
Yes.
Which we're waiting for a pending National Science Foundation grant for. And we have 6 majors we're offering, and she's a business major. She's talked about a specific course this autumn, taking this on her own as an independent study. But she's also, I don't think that it's necessarily an MIT OpenCourseWare business course. And right now, World University and School is in a quite open space with regard to the accrediting process. And Tanya's okay with that. So there's the potential she could focus on a different MIT OpenCourseWare course and even perhaps begin to help develop a platform that would, generate sales and books that could bring in an income that you could help guide and focus. As one, thought here, could you see benefit in having a student, a sort of student intern?
Yes, yeah. So I can communicate with her and see what exchange is possible. Well, I can listen to her to find out what benefits she wants from such cooperation or internship, and you'll tell me what benefits you want for your company so that I know what to negotiate.
At this point, World University and School, on the nonprofit side, is continuing to offer courses, and she's doing, I think, a third course, independent study. On the WUaS Co side, she's a business major, one of the interesting potentials would be how to build from a single MIT OpenCourseWare course to a kind of platform that would get sales. And we don't have resources for that either, but that could, if we were able to generate revenue through a bookstore, computer store in a very seed form, that could contribute to your income needs, I suspect. What do you think?
Yes. Okay, so we will focus on advertising books over the internet, which you want to deliver as print, right?
Print or digital. The digital space is enormous, but let us see what Tanya is interested in with her business major, and whether she would be open to exploring taking maybe a different MIT OpenCourseWare course that could lead to, you know, a sort of intern learning opportunity in conversation with you as well. I mean, I hear what you're saying, that you're in need financially, and World University and School doesn't have financial resources to speak of whatsoever at this point. Yet we'd like to sort of obviously create them for many years. So one of the so that question with her as well, in terms of a business major and actually using MIT OpenCourseWare to actually generate revenue in very short order, is an interesting question. How would you begin to generate revenue based on maybe MIT OpenCourseWare courses within the WUaS Co 10 planned revenue streams almost immediately that could also benefit you? What are some of your thoughts there?
Let me see. Yeah, but before that, I ask you whether you can hear any background noise from me.
I see children. I hear what I think of as children's sounds in the background.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry. If you want, I will close the window. So
no, I mean it's okay. That's all right. If your choice, wherever you want to be with this.
I understand. Okay. So it's advisable to agree on some data management procedures that would help us organize such discussion, because such a discussion would have many parts, and it would take a long time. And the data that we create, be it let's say in writing or recordings like this one, should be easy to retrieve, right?
I think developing a plan that on the WUaS Co side, having shared initial, shares with you,
yes,
that would become valuable when WUaS Co goes public, is a very useful focus, and around potentially the Wikidata ecosystem that is in 300 languages, and maybe around the wiki citation process, which could become, a kind of inventory database for a bookstore, computer store, academic press, makes sense. So working with Wikidata, WikiCite, and Creative Commons Zero licensing would be part of that process.
yeah.
Go ahead.
So you asked me what my thoughts are, and I'm saying that the first thing about this would be to not only to express those thoughts, but also to organize the data that shows those thoughts in writing or in speech as we do now, so that we end up expressing those things clearly, and be able to create summaries, lists, and workflows and overviews, so that it becomes so that you can make decisions, or any of us can make decisions more confidently, you know.
That makes much sense, and we've done only a bit of that in Google Docs, in other conversations, in looking at the WUaS co-business plan, in other ways. So focusing that yet further has merit.
Okay, because this would help me recap what you want. So I feel that you really want a book to sell books, you know. Well, I don't. It might be the first time, maybe. I mean, I may have forgotten. It might be the first time that I see that you say that you would sell digital content too. Is this something new?
I think that digital content is a remarkable opportunity here. It's something I've certainly explored in the past, maybe not with you. There's a woman at the Stanford bookstore who's originally from Germany, who has been a longtime bookseller, and she came to a monthly business meeting for World University and School in June of 2017. She, from her book selling position, sees a remarkable opportunity for online digital books as a new space. I mean, the WUaS Co. is very much an educational services company. Initially, the idea is to provide books for students at World University and School. One of the ways we could potentially focus this ongoing, possibly planning process, Julian, would be to think in terms of students matriculating at World University and School in January 2019, so about 4.5 months from now. And if we had 100 to 500 students and they all had book needs, to develop a platform with WikiCite, Wikidata as a back end, would be a very interesting goal, and that would generate revenue potentially. What do you think?
There's quite a lot to consider. So for instance, my company's education offer is that a person informs us what information they want, and we can organize it in a course. And the teachers are to provide, the teachers and our education team are to provide all the content. So the content user or the students pay for being given this knowledge by specialist educators, And we make available content which may be custom content, which we create or adapt. And you say, okay, and you say, I mean, something that I've seen, for instance, I've been educated with in this way, that a student would need some books. I've seen again and again discussions about people having lost interest in books. For it is more and more difficult to find people who would spend their time reading one book. I'm not saying 10 textbooks, I'm saying one book. So this is why. So I would like to understand people better and offer what would help them most during the following years. Now, I'm not saying this in order to contradict you. I'm just saying that when you ask me about this, I feel that I have to analyze it carefully and to describe honestly what I know or perceive, including the risks of designing a service in a way or another.
Great. Thank you for joining the Hangout. We've had a little bit of, I'm glad we're engaging this process more directly. I think you've been to one other Hangout in recent months. Yeah. And just to add to that, you know, in many ways, in our MIT OpenCourseWare centricity, which is a great academic standard, the books that are listed there have a link with a major online bookstore. That's an arrangement that MIT OpenCourseWare, as a nonprofit, has made with a for-profit company. And that obviously is an interesting, you know, both model and challenge.
Yes.
So I think people are buying books and many other products in many, many different ways. And students, for example, at MIT are buying books as well, and buying other things as well, like engineering products, whether that be Lego WeDo 2.0 for online home robotics that a World University and School course could offer newly. I think there's one Lego robotics course at MIT OpenCourseWare, and I don't think they sell Lego WeDo 2.0 or Lego Mindstorms EV3. But it seems that World University and School, getting the students, the 100 to 500 students, 500 would be better. Yes. From the point of view of you know, potential consumers, whether they be individuals in richer countries or ministries of education from poorer countries, helping purchase these university educational supplies. So both planning-wise, with you as the named WUaS CEO, and also in terms of a platform you know, a sort of that major online bookstore is a remarkable example. You being in Europe have a whole different potential angle on this, completely different market awareness.
So,
but, yeah, go ahead.
Did you say earlier that you made an agreement with a company that you to get a sales commission on their books? Something like this?
Where we are with MIT OpenCourseWare is that in their Creative Commons 4 licensing, this allows for A, sharing, B, adapting, but C, non-commercially. And we also cannot use their name.
Yeah.
And where we add their website, we have to add 3 disclaimers: that MIT doesn't endorse us, that MIT OpenCourseWare is available for free. And you'll see those 3 disclaimers on World University and School side, on the main worlduniversityandschool.org webpage. So that's, you know, World University and School's relationship with MIT OpenCourseWare. Just thinking hypothetically, in terms of an engineering undergraduate degree beginning in January, if World University and School, the nonprofit, could create a kind of new syllabus around the Lego robotics course from MIT OpenCourseWare that, you know, engaged for undergraduates in the syllabus, both Lego WeDo 2.0 and Lego Mindstorms EV3, the first costing something like $200 and the second costing something like $350, in one term, 4-month course for one course, maybe 2 courses. We would be sharing the MIT OCW Lego robotics course per their CC4 licensing. We would be adapting it, but we would be creating our own syllabus in that sharing and adapting. And it would have potentially the, you know, Lego WeDo 2 and Mindstorms EV3 maybe in a second terms course. And these could be something that the WUaS Co sells as an educational service company. These are products that we would have to buy, obviously, yes. But they would be also maybe more remunerative than even textbooks, because, you know, some textbooks might cost in this country very expensively $100 to $150. So these are, you know, quite valuable and important educational resources that I think would require a platform. And the open course and the syllabus that we created, much like the MIT OpenCourseWare syllabus, would be CC4 licensed, but our syllabus would also have links to our bookstore with Lego WeDo 2.0 on it, and would thereby they'd be required materials if students wanted a free engineering degree that was MIT OpenCourseWare centric. So then the question would be, how would you, as the named CEO, further manage an unfolding platform?
Mm-hmm.
Would we create the MIT OpenCourseWare Lego robotics course newly in a Google Doc, and then have links to our bookstore, you know, based on the academic press page, those 2 books. But then we need a web coder.
Yes.
Maybe within the Google ecosystem too. I don't know, because of the Google Translate advantage and the Google TensorFlow. So how do we, you know, we've long wanted someone head of information technology, and on both wings.
Yes.
I think I've emailed you a couple of times over the past year or 2 about, and you've brought forth Patio, but you know, about someone who could build out a bookstore from the academic press 2 books that I've written, just as models, you know, like that main bookstore that I've mentioned. Each book has its own web page. That's fairly straightforward to do. I've coded web pages a little bit, but to structure the whole thing around, you know, 200 countries, languages, and with TensorFlow potentially. But it could start with single web pages, a WeDo 2.0 web page and a EV3 web page on the syllabus that we create. So those are some planning ideas. What are your thinking?
Yeah, may I have some pieces of information?
Yeah.
Okay, so you mentioned these 2 pieces of content. I think you said $200 and $350. One would have to pay in order to have the rights to create a new version of them. Is that correct? Or
on the nonprofit side, we would potentially share and adapt the MIT OpenCourseWare Lego robotics side around the CC4 licensing, creating our own syllabus.
Okay.
And on the for-profit side, that would have links to the WUaS Co. bookstore.
Yeah.
Each item would have its own product page.
So you would, does that mean that you would not sell this content that you adapt?
The MIT, on the nonprofit side, the syllabus, this is all brainstorming wise, hypothetically, the new syllabus for the Lego robotics course that World University and School would offer, the robotics course that World University and School would offer, would be based on the MIT OpenCourseWare CC4 Lego robotics course. And because it's in our own syllabus that we're adapting, would have then links to our own bookstore. And I don't think the Lego Robotics MIT OpenCourseWare course has, you know, WeDo 2.0. And while that's for elementary kids, it's actually a very interesting resource. I think it could be adapted for undergraduates, you know, as an entree, and it's fun as well.
So you're going to have to get hundreds of students during the following months. Who's going to teach them?
So the National Science Foundation grant is almost entirely for hypothetical graduate student instructors.
Okay.
So they would be teaching sections, and hopefully Stanford graduate students in 10-person group video hangouts. So they would be the teachers.
Okay. I try to think further. There will be the students. Okay, they have a course. Oh, so this organization, or okay, did you say Science Foundation?
National Science Foundation is, and this is for the nonprofit side. We would need to raise capital for the for-profit side to buy the Lego robotics, or figure out an arrangement with Lego robotics. I have an email, just as an additional idea here, from the Harvard University Graduate School of Education coordinator for the Scratch drag and drop programming language. And I had made and Scratch drag and drop programming language potentially works with Lego WeDo 2.0 robotics. And I had made the suggestion that I would ask Stanford University itself if I could hold a Scratch drag and drop programming language meetup, or open teaching and learning opportunity at Stanford. And I've also made the proposal with as a yet another additional piece of information in this conversation with you, Julian, with the Stanford Peace Innovation Institute. I have a meeting in late September, the last week of September, and I've put on the agenda seeking a position at Stanford.
Yes.
So if I had a position at Stanford, that might further facilitate this Scratch, my facilitating a Scratch drag and drop programming language meetup, maybe in the Stanford Graduate School of Education. So one of the things vis-a-vis your emergency that we're going to talk about as yet a third additional piece of information with the Stanford Peace Innovation Institute, and a Mark Nelson there, who's a co-founder or co-director of the Stanford Peace Innovation Institute, is this idea of sort of peace data tokens or peace data credits. And I've also made the proposal for a kind of, in conversation with this idea from Mark Nelson, for a kind of universal basic income, even a single cryptocurrency with blockchain ledger, you know, post Euro, which is in 25 out of 28 countries. I realize Romania is not in the European Union yet, but a cryptocurrency with blockchain ledger distributed as a universal basic income would be in all 200, backed by 200 countries' central banks, would be in Romania, and to distribute it, you know, would be a way to address maybe your emergency. But all of this is complex planning and more than complex sort of information technology, and doesn't address your emergency in the moment. But these are parts of the puzzle of creating our own World University and School syllabus for a single course that would be an engineering undergraduate course where students would use Lego WeDo 2 that would cost $200. We'd have to still buy that or have an arrangement with Lego Education, but maybe that would happen through the Harvard Graduate School of Education. Karen Brennan is a professor there who is, bringing the Scratch drag and drop programming language into more and more of the public sphere. And she has an MIT Media Lab PhD, and MIT Media Lab has an arrangement with Lego too. So there's prospective graduate student instructors from MIT Media Lab teaching a kind of World University and School Lego robotics if we can pay them with the National Science Foundation grant foundation monies.
Yes.
Questions, thoughts, ideas?
One moment. I needed some water too. An organization would collect the money with which to repay the teachers.
We would get a grant from the National Science Foundation on the nonprofit side, with which we could pay the graduate student instructors.
How do you discuss with potential students the benefits? What do they ask for? What do you offer?
Great question. And a related question is, could you find a number of students in Romania who either spoke Romanian or English and would benefit from a university course of study? So if Romanian students or American students, both in English, took this single Lego robotics course toward an engineering degree, the American students would see taking a single course maybe is more attractive if they get a certificate. But most American undergraduates, I think almost all students who are 18 or 19, all young people who are 18 or 19 in America are going through a college education. And so even though it doesn't necessarily benefit them initially with a single course, I think if they get an AA degree or an undergraduate degree, American students see that, a bachelor's degree, as beneficial. So American students are going through the college experience. Almost all 18-year-olds, I'd guess 80, 90, 95% of 18-year-olds go through college in America. In Romania, and it may just be a 2-year college, a kind of community college, but it may be a 4-year college. How would you characterize the situation in Romania? Why do Romanians go to 18-year-olds either go to a community college or towards a university degree, if they do? And how many are going there?
Community college? Did you say that that's a 2-year course?
Typically, can be.
Yeah. And is it like a vocational school? You are taught a profession?
It depends. Can be, but you can learn. You typically get a major, and that major can become employable.
Okay. Short time studies, schools that offer, let's say, similar short time studies, have been disappearing in Romania, have been going bankrupt. The quality of university studies seems to have plummeted. It's difficult to justify such an investment. Yeah. Some Romanian teenagers go abroad to study.
I see this as a remarkable opportunity.
Beg your pardon?
I see this as a remarkable opportunity in Romania. If students aren't seeing value in education and they could both get an education as well as maybe monies in Romania, like in Denmark, I think students are paid to go to school in Denmark.
Oh.
Maybe, you know, World University and School could create something completely new in Romania, in Romanian.
Okay, what would be new?
Pardon me?
What would be new?
Well, the MIT OpenCourseWare would be new in Romanian. And that World University and School's plans for growth to, you know, potentially provide careers to graduates would be new maybe in Romania too. Those are two significant new things. What do you think those are? Are those new or not? Would those be new for Romania or not?
Well, I don't know. So you refer to gaining specialist knowledge of something, which is always a good thing because we need specialists, we need competent people, and especially Romania is lacking specialists in quite a few fields. At the same time, I feel that the future is not about a career. People today do not have a career. The loyalty towards business team has dropped.
Towards what? Loyalty towards business?
Towards a business team.
Okay.
People get jobs frequently, unlike decades ago when they wouldn't seek a second or a third job, and I refer to subsequent jobs, not to going to more than one job at a time.
One of the interesting opportunities with MIT OpenCourseWare and specialization with regard to academics is there are about 36 departments from MIT online for free OpenCourseWare, and translating it, you know, with new syllabi to Romanian would create 36 you know, undergraduate and PhD opportunities with very specialized knowledge. You may have studied in Germany. Germany has both a remarkable orientation to science, Wissenschaft, with lots of research and specialized knowledge.
Yes.
But it also has a very robust economy. So it's also very entrepreneurial.
Yes.
With large industries and large companies. These they seem to go hand in hand, in my thinking, in Germany. PhDs in specialized knowledge areas and industry growth. One question is how to create that, you know, anew in Romania. And in translating an MIT OpenCourseWare course into Romanian, because the books don't translate readily. There's copyright issues and translation issues, even though Andrej Olszak, who holds the Romanian Hangout on Saturdays, says that Google Translate has gotten much better. Like, it's great.
Oh, yeah.
The books still don't go across. So there's an opportunity in Romania to refocus an MIT OpenCourseWare syllabus for any specific course, given the Creative Commons 4 licensing, and then to offer books that would be Romanian, potentially, and for sale. How to grow such an opportunity in Romania? What do you think?
Let's see. So you're saying books that would be bought by students, right?
Correct.
How are students motivated to buy these books?
Because they're required for a course. They would acquire knowledge. It's the acquisition thing that I think Americans and Germans, acquisition of knowledge rather than acquisition of, from a business team or a business.
So the course is not free.
The course would be free because it's based on Creative Commons 4 OpenCourseWare. That's MIT OpenCourseWare centric. But World University and School on the nonprofit side would like to seek reimbursement from ministries of education and governments around the world. So it's free to students around the CC4 licensing, item 3, non-commercially.
Yes, but they have to buy books.
Books, that's contingent on, in my thinking, over a number of years, on whether the country is, rich or poor. I think we've got this 200 country focus. As the named CEO in Europe, you probably have rich and poor countries in Europe in terms of thinking and planning. If in Romania, which I understand is on the poorer side of the spectrum in Europe, students couldn't buy the books, maybe the Ministry of Education could help in Romania. And the parallel in the United States at the high school level is high school education in the United States is free public education for the 95% of the students who are teenagers who take advantage of it. And these students go to class and they get their chemistry textbooks for free from the state of California, from the state of Massachusetts. So that's all paid for by ministries of education in California or Massachusetts, for example.
I don't know if I can tell somebody, a student, that I can share knowledge with them only if they buy a certain book.
As if you were helping focus.
This is something that I've seen in the USA, but you're talking any country. Yeah. So would you consider more views I mean, for instance, if I say Zimbabwe and Tajikistan, do we have there such a tradition?
We would, you know, this would all be part of the planning on the World University and School MIT OpenCourseWare centric CC4 side, and on the WUaS Press, WUaS Co side. If you, as the named CEO, were interested in generating revenue for the WUaS CO, and you had 200 countries, and you knew that in Germany students went to university for free, but paid for their books. But in another country, you know, like America has a fair amount of resources, but high school students who go to public school still get their books for free. I would think that you, as the named CEO of the WUaS Co, would want quite a few countries' students to pay for their books that could. But that's all part of planning out this information technology platform country by country.
It depends on what language communities we focus first. So we can. I mean, I support making a plan that would work for most countries. It helps to have such a basis, and we can create special plans for certain language communities and countries, or adapt to the audience, because for selling globally, you might use many communicators or even communication teams. So this would mean that customization will grow. Well,
Interesting thinking. One further addition to that thinking is think in terms of also of the MIT OpenCourseWare platform, CC4 licensed in its 5 languages. And correspondingly, think of the other major book company online platform in their however many languages, 10 to 20 languages, for profit. Now, they're completely separate entities, but they have this relationship. Yeah. And I think thinking in terms of platforms is very useful. If you had, Julian, as named CEO, that, major book companies platform, and everything on it was for sale in all of Wikidata's 300 languages based on WikiCite, then you, as named WUaS CEO, could make arrangements with the governments, for example, in Zimbabwe and Tajikistan, where the ministries of education would buy the books through your platform, whereas German students taking German MIT OpenCourseWare would buy their own books through your platform. Mm-hmm. And where Romanian students would go with that is another set of questions.
Yeah. Well, I remember David Toro, or how do you pronounce it? It's a French name, Toro. writing that the best government is smallest government. And I felt like that at least ever since. So I'd support people to redesign government and resource management. That is, improve their national resource management plans, which depend today to a great extent to those of many other countries. And somebody put it like this: let's switch from government to governance. I know people who have similar feelings. I do not support the mass stealing that has become a tradition with many governments. I don't think that anybody should be forced out of any property. So, and I say this because you said, what did you say about governments? That I should, close deals with them.
One of the
this is so, please.
I think in terms of Brussels, when you first began talking, and the relatively recent governmental entity of the EU, which has a single currency, but only 25 out of 28 nation states or member states engage that. And whether, taxation within the EU is stealing by governments from people or not, the relationship of a people to its government in terms of democratically electing them with confidence or without confidence in their, I'll say, corruption or fairness, which may be a question that you alluded to just now. With Romania, I've heard, questions along these lines with other Eastern European states at Stanford in the recent months, can also be addressed in terms of fairness. But it would be interesting in closing to, maybe even develop a Lego robotics course at World University and School in Romanian in a Google Docs. But I think in terms of the Olympics Committee, which receives monies from member states, probably all 206 in a recent Olympics, member states, I would guess. And whether you, by parallel, would be striking as kind of the WUaS Co. for-profit educational services company named CEO, would be striking deals with Olympics organizations in Tajikistan and Zimbabwe for books for their high-achieving students, to stretch the way of thinking here, or whether they would welcome paying you for their books because they want their students to be part of this, World University and School Olympics of education. How many PhDs can Zimbabwe or Tajikistan generate? And how high quality PhDs can they be in those languages? I don't know if that's you striking deals with Tajikistan Ministry of Education or not around questions of corruption. I'm just sort of, I don't quite know the issues in Romania or, how to generate many Romanian students.
Mm-hmm. There are companies, for instance, Philip Morris, who abused at least one nation and government. Microsoft, who did the same, for instance, with the Romanian government. I wouldn't call that business. I want to communicate with people directly and publicly, and I want to stay accountable, responsible, competent, capable.
How is the Google platform viewed in Romania? Google ecosystem?
Well, it's quite successful.
Is it not? I mean, they have this "do no evil" sort of motto.
They are renouncing, yeah.
World University and School would like.
They seem open to do business under our terms, I mean, with anybody.
Interesting.
Yeah. But yeah, the latest thing is that they have been developing a censored version of Google search according to the instructions of the Chinese government. So Google condones censorship, among other things. This is what they are said to do, you know. I have not provided this information.
There was a recent Twitter posting
by. I don't think that this is what software developers should do. So, power. How should I put it? Levels are changing, and I like powerful people, not people who submit to power. Pay me to be your slave. I don't condone that slavery in any way.
These are interesting questions.
Google doesn't need one more cent. You know, they can shut down today, and they'll be rich. They and their families and their grandchildren and great-grandchildren. Okay, they don't need it. So they're doing evil without having to. So this is what this seems like.
Google has the mission of organizing all information, and Wikimedia has a parallel mission around information, where the executive director of the Wikimedia Foundation, Catherine Maher, also at the top of her Twitter feed, observes a commitment to education as well. And as these organizations like Google and MIT and Wikimedia proceed with their missions, which, you know, with Google's case, informed by Don't Be Evil, but as they navigate, I see a relatively good mission in China. This involves transforming their AI in new ways, and who knows how much possibility there is for AI to develop as political regimes change. If the Chinese government grew more open in 10 years, those algorithms for Google might open out into more free speech, if that's the issue. So I hear what you're saying, though.
Okay, so you want to teach young people, and you want a bookstore. Now, the bookstore, okay, which how would you like to shape communication about the bookstore? What would you like this bookstore to bring you?
one way to, I mean, besides planning in a kind of broad overview way, the one possible approach on the pragmatic side would be to actually develop a new syllabus for an engineering course that would be around home robotics, based on the MIT OpenCourseWare Lego robotics in a Google Doc, and add 15 weeks of books of Lego We Do Too, and that would be for sale on the for-profit side, and use that as a kind of way forward to develop broader approaches. And it could be both, conceptually in Romanian, as well as in English.
Yeah, okay. Language is not an issue. Okay.
Well, the robotics books in Romanian would be significant, or, we'd have to navigate that. But, that might not be an issue. You're right.
Okay. How can you help me see this bookstore? How do you have a design for it, or anything, the beginning of a design or a desire?
Yeah, very much. If you go to the academic press at World University and School page, and that's also a potential revenue stream, and you're a professional translator.
Where is it?
Here, I'll put it into the, and if you go to the, two examples of books.
Well, I found it, yeah. I have found it.
If you go to the two examples of books, if one could, in a brainstorming way, just add a pay button to these book pages, the ones I'm posting now. Then that's the potential beginning of a bookstore.
Yes.
And I wonder if I could begin to create a syllabus in a Google Docs for an engineering robotics page, engineering robotics course, that would have 15 weeks of educational supplies, and that might even include something to do with the actual virtual Harbin book. I'm hopefully going to give a UC Berkeley, my 4th UC Berkeley anthropology talk on robotics. And for example, I include some ideas that could lead to some sort of, product in these regards, or something like that, that could be for sale. I don't know. What do you think about the academic press and these two books as the beginning of a bookstore?
Well, we can use them. So I can configure the website so that people can buy from there. Okay, this is one idea. Another one is, are you aware, you mentioned Google Docs, are you aware that you can use more content from your Google Drive by managing it in Google Sites?
No, I wasn't aware. Very interesting. Thank you for that heads up.
Okay. Do you want to check this out yourself, or would you like me to share my screen for a moment and show one thing or two.
Please share your screen for a moment.
Share. Let me see. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay.
For a moment.
Beg your pardon?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay. So it's Google Sites. It's sites.google.com. They added new because it's a new version. Okay. And what should I? So let's take this one, open a new tab. Okay, and here you can design, and we can view the published site, which has a menu. That is, you can go to other pages, and you can also set a hierarchy. There was a second tier, I think. I don't know. I forgot how many tiers. But
fantastic, Julian.
Beg your pardon?
Fantastic, interesting.
So what I wanted to show is that you can insert, among other things, let me see. Okay, you can insert content from your Google account. For instance, well, any YouTube video. It doesn't have to belong to you in any way. And you can see from Google Drive actually anything. And of course a calendar when we find that useful, a map, and you mentioned Google Docs. A Google Doc can be chosen and inserted, something like this. You can choose how much space it should take. I'm going to delete it from here, and also slides, sheets, forms, and charts. And forms I find useful, and of course, again, if you feel that you need a spreadsheet, a table, you can organize the information in that way too. Beside being able to include media, that is, you can. It gives you more options, right?
Incredible.
Yeah.
So great. Thanks for showing that. It would be interesting. Go ahead.
The entire content bundle, you can share as you do a Google document. Yeah.
So we could make something together.
Yes.
Since I hold the copyrights to these two books over on the right, and as a kind of experiment or brainstorming process, it might be interesting to somehow recreate these in Google Sites and add a pay button and then build out a bookstore from that. Is that in the realm of possibility?
Yes.
Great. And then the question would be getting other products on there for courses that would be, more related to something that students would somehow procure for credit for each course.
So, do you want don't know, to be, do you want it to be just another bookstore, a small private store, or because there's really strong, I mean, people would go, for instance, to Amazon and several other companies that sell books, and
Barnes and Noble.
yes, yeah, and do you want to provide something better or something original? Do you want to give people reasons to not buy from those companies, but from World University?
Yes. Starting with single books as products, web pages like these two examples, it would be great to offer something better than the ones you've mentioned. And I can think of, one way would be with TensorFlow in the background. So I appreciate your thinking in terms of Google, because it opens up to TensorFlow as part of its ecosystem. And then the other thing, as you may know, we want an academic press, and potentially form with machine translation in all 7,100 languages. So that's potentially giving products for this bookstore that would be very different from Barnes and Noble and other online bookstores. So those are two major ways that I could see differentiating. And then the third way is we've long thought that, or I've long thought that on the book side of things, we'd like to compete potentially with price. And one thought had been to start at 10% less than the competition.
Yes.
On the order fulfillment side, or paper books. But the digital space, offers a whole different line of things. And thirdly, then controlling the supply, of where the books come from, in a sense, maybe through the academic press with machine translation would be a remarkable advantage there. Through copyright.
Yeah. So I don't think I've ever asked you. So you seem to like education. Are you a teacher too? Maybe you've told me sometime.
Here's the course I've taught for many years.
Oh yeah, you were telling me, yeah, one time.
But I'm also eager to teach a course, potentially about carbon hot springs.
Yes.
So if we could begin the bookstore in Google Sites based on what you've shown me, and if out of the conversation you were to take it much further, that so that I could focus on teaching, that would be super. How does that sound?
Well, for that we need to find a solution. I mean, we've mentioned many things. If we organize them and analyze them, we can see a solution. How could I do it? Because so this is something, I'll show you something that has been, so this is something that makes me focus only on it. So for instance, there's a long list of services. And this one, for instance, says you can place an order to buy or rent anything. And I can explain why. What problems I try to solve with this. And then there are many other things, which already require many resources. Yeah. So, for instance, if we try to make aware one another of what benefits we're seeking, so that we can find out what benefits, what services we can exchange. So I understand that you want me to work for a company, for instance, in order to use my knowledge.
Well, I think we've, over a number of years now, we've communicated some about some of these questions, and
yes,
in a sense, we've already exchanged some services. You've gotten some shares from
yes.
the WUaS Co, but they only gain value when we go public, and going public in the Romanian stock exchange would be different from going public in the United States stock exchange, but that would have to be backed by revenue. So building out of a kind of Google Sites ecosystem, potentially tied to the Wiki Sites CC0 licensing in 300 languages, are remarkable seeds for growth. At this point, I appreciate your knowledge and thinking in these regards, and we should probably, the share aspect is something we haven't talked recently very much about further, and it might be good to be explicit about that. In such meetings, for example, as today's, which I'm very glad you participated. Thank you. But it's also something that was very unexpected, a pleasant surprise. Thank you, Julian. But I think the shares could be an interesting avenue forward in these regards, with regard to your emergency, but also with regard to some of the exchanges you're mentioning. What do you think?
Well, how do I find out what gives value to those shares?
So right now, they emerge from the state of California's sort of legal process. So in a sense, that's the basis of those shares having value, but they're not yet public in a sense. And when they go public, other people will want them as well, and that will further create a market for them, so their value will increase. So it's both the state of California's legal process as well as, the potential market, which we would have to partly create, partly through getting the bookstore pages up soon and selling, and the academic press text coming through and selling, and partly through World University and Schools courses. Do you see a potential student body in Romania who might be interested in either in Romanian or English these degrees that would be accredited like Stanford is accredited for specialized knowledge?
Okay, and you say that they would spend how many years as students?
Typically, an undergraduate degree would be 4 years for a bachelor's.
Yeah. Okay, and okay, how have you decided how this would be organized? For instance, how many days a year a student would have to spend learning?
We, in a fairly recent monthly business meeting, we're talking 3 terms a year, 4 months each. January to the end of April, beginning of May to the end of August, beginning of September to the end of December. And we're talking both about, a cohort of students, people meeting in 10-person group video, Google Hangouts, for example, and also independent studies.
So 12 months a year?
So 4 months, 3 courses or 4 courses in a 4-month term, and we would seek over 4 years, basically 40 courses over 4 years for a free-to-students undergraduate bachelor's degree that's accredited.
Okay, so they gain a lot of knowledge. Then to whom can they sell it?
So if a student gets a bachelor's degree in chemical engineering from Stanford, either a Romanian student who travels to Stanford and lives there for 4 years, or an American student who travels to Stanford and lives there for 4 years, they typically have to get a license in the country that they will work in. I don't know if you can get a chemical engineering license in the United States with a bachelor's degree, and Romanian, an English language chemical engineering degree from Stanford by a Romanian student who seeks licensing in Romania in Romanian is another set of questions, but that's the idea.
Okay, so does this mean that they would be highly qualified and they would be probable to find employment with the most demanding companies?
That would be the goal.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's say, for instance, let me look again. So ask for energy, internet. Okay, so I'm interested in this. So one of my businesses is improve energy management. For instance, take requests to build solar power plants. For this, we'd need any specialist that would be needed, let's say, in 4 to 10 years from now, for that technology. For whatever technology we will have, we will choose to use in 5 years from now. People will be needed in many countries. Well, I think we'll have to give them quite a high salary. Okay. What other things should we consider? Now, would you include a course that would help us?
Very interesting question. I'm familiar with a place in Massachusetts that has just put in a solar array over the past 5 to 10 years, a team of around 5 or 6 people. And they basically figured it out on their own. It's a very rural and remote location. But they did, I think, probably hire some engineers and a consulting firm, which could parallel the organization you're talking about, one of your businesses. And so those engineers probably had degrees in, various aspects of putting this up. Yes, those courses exist at MIT OpenCourseWare. They are not yet in the Romanian language.
That's another question. Yeah, that's a different matter.
I mean, it would be very, in our brainstorming for an undergraduate engineering degree around this idea of a home robotics course, to have a sort of focus based on the MIT OpenCourseWare on, mid-sized solar panel development that would be directly applicable to what your company, for example. Shall we see if we can, find the seed for that course? And would you think it'd be better in Romanian or in beyond if there's one in English?
So is the main language of this, or the original language of these courses, English?
Let's see if we can find a good example. So here's one, photovoltaic solar energy systems, MIT OpenCourseWare course, taught in 2004. And just to have a look at it, let's see, can I share my screen here with you?
Yes.
Let me Screen share.
It's the green button. The first
Entire screen. Oh, not that one.
It's fine. Yeah, it's fine.
It gave me multiple screens over on my side. Application window.
Another tab, it will look normal.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it. Mm-hmm. Well,
this is
well, it probably
the course we could conceivably offer.
Mm-hmm.
And just for brainstorming in terms of a bookstore and even and even an academic press.
Yeah.
So photovoltaic, this is an undergraduate course.
Mm-hmm.
And study materials about the 7th link down. It looks like there's annual solar data for some particular U.S. cities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I'm not finding any reading materials
yeah. Mm-hmm.
To buy. Their readings are handed out in class, and the lecture notes, there are, I think, 4 PDFs, portable document format documents.
Yes. Okay.
So if we were to offer this in January for 4 months, and thinking in terms of your energy consulting company, I mean, I think a student taking an engineering undergraduate degree,
yes,
might benefit from this course, you know, with a graduate student instructor. I'm not sure if it could be taught in Romanian. I think
it's fine. It's fine. Okay, and okay, MIT. So the OpenCourseWare is available publicly for free. Oh, and okay. What you offer additionally is guidance from teachers, right?
And accreditation is
oh, yeah.
You know, what this National Science Foundation grant will help with, as well as paying graduate student instructors as teachers.
Does this mean that a student can go either to MIT or to World University?
We would like, you know, our graduates from our accredited undergraduate program to have the knowledge to be able to apply to MIT for a PhD program and get in. But
after taking your courses?
After getting a degree, they would need a bachelor's degree to apply for a PhD degree.
Mm-hmm. But what if they go there for an undergraduate studies?
Are you asking if they would be able to transfer from an accrediting world university and school after 2 years to MIT for the remaining 2 years?
No, I'm trying to understand what you want to offer. If you offer content made by MIT, is a student motivated to prefer to prefer you over MIT if they can go to either, if they can take either undergraduate study course?
So they would have to apply to MIT from Romania, and they would have to be able to speak English to go, and then they would have to get into MIT, and then they would have to find the finances to travel to Cambridge, Massachusetts, live there for 4 years, and also pay tuition to MIT. We eventually will seek applications, you know, for our undergraduate studies for a free to students bachelor's degree. But students in Romania will be able to attend World University and School free to students. And will be accrediting. MIT is accredited with probably an accrediting agency in either Massachusetts or New England. Will be accrediting with WUaS Senior, which accredits Stanford too. So the student be taking these MIT OpenCourseWare centric courses from home in Romania in English or planned in Romanian would take them for free and from their home. They wouldn't have the laboratories of MIT, but they would have, you know, a planned realistic virtual Earth with its own laboratories.
Set up something
at the cellular and atomic level. So brand new reconception of laboratories.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm thinking. Yeah, I mean, you've said many things, and tonight I'm not able to think quickly, or that's why I've been silent for some moments. But I am considering all the things we've said. This reminds me of a song.
What's the song?
I think it's all the things we said. I think this is the song.
By way of a comparison, and in terms of accreditation for a hypothetical Romanian student applying to MIT or applying to Stanford or applying to World University and School, which seeks to be accredited, I've just posted in the text the accrediting agencies for MIT and Stanford. And I think that would be, that students might not think about that from Romania when applying to MIT or Stanford. But that is significant in World University and Schools planning. And those accrediting agencies help give value to the MIT and Stanford degrees. Stanford offers bachelor's degrees, it offers PhDs, it offers medical degrees, and it offers law degrees. MIT does not offer medical degrees or law degrees because it doesn't have a medical school or law school.
Yes.
We want to offer, you know, all 4 of those degrees online in a new way.
Which are they again? Engineering, medicine, law?
The bachelor's degree at World University and School will eventually seek to offer majors in all of MIT's 36 departments.
Oh, yeah.
Based on the Creative Commons for MIT OpenCourseWare. And similarly with PhDs, 36 departments at MIT. And then in addition, we would like to offer medical degrees and law degrees. Those are sort of professional degrees compared with the PhD or the bachelor's degree, which are more academic degrees.
Well, I'm very interested in medicine too. I mean, in using the services of valuable caregivers, in making those services available where they are needed. So
Julian, the internet connection is making your voice hard to hear. You're fading out a little bit.
I don't know what happened. Yeah. How can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
I can't really hear you.
No.
Let's bring this conversation to a close now and continue it in email.
Yeah.
Potentially next Monday as well, if you're interested.
Yeah.
Since the internet connection has decreased in quality, how does that sound?
Fine. Good.
Great. Thank you so much for joining this hangout. This is, I think, been a both pragmatic and idea generative conversation.
Yes, I'm interested. Is my voice still breaking? Yeah, okay. Then I'll say goodbye. Goodbye.